UA High School, the school widely renowned as Japan's most prestigious hero academy, Suck It Shiketsu, has provided us with some of the most well-known and powerful pro heroes in the entirety of the My Hero world. Their alumni includes, but is not limited to, Big Papa All Might, Bad Dad Endeavor, Mr.BJ himself, Best Jeanist, Oh God My Eyes, Aizawa. How in God's name is she still a teacher Midnight? Probably didn't get enough attention as a kid, Present Mike, and everyone's favorite, Loud Cloud. Wait, who the fuck is Loud Cloud? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to explain in this video as I give you a full breakdown on everything you need to know about the tragic hero that was Loud Cloud, aka Oboro Shirakumo. Now, there are technically My Hero Academia vigilante spoilers ahead, so if you're a fake fan who doesn't obsess over everything My Hero related like the rest of us degenerates and you don't want to be spoiled, I recommend clicking away now, hopefully to one of my other great videos. But if you've already read My Hero Academia Vigilantes or just don't give a damn and want to learn about the heartbreaking story of this character, then stick around and strap yourself in because we are going on an adventure. Also, don't forget to Detroit smash that like button and slide into that subscribe button's DMs to hit that notification bell. Okay, so who is Oboro Shirakumo? Well, Oboro was a student at UA High School who attended the same class as Shota Aizawa, aka Eraserhead, and Hisashi Yamada, aka Present Mike. This trio were actually the best of friends, lovingly being referred to as the Three Dummigos, a combination of the words dumb and amigos by their fellow classmates. Personality-wise, Oboro was very similar to that of Mirio Togeda, meaning he was jovial as all hell, loved to stay active, and was maybe a bit too goofy for his own good. Also, just like Mirio, he was never afraid to get naked in front of his fellow classmates. Hashtag hangin' brain bros. Now, Oboro being extremely similar to Mirio in personality was very much intentional, as Horikoshi noted how he wanted to create a character in Aizawa's past who was Mirio-like that could bounce off his straight-faced, cynical, often negative demeanor. Similar to how Mirio bounces off and supports UA's resident shy boy, Tamaki Amajiki. In terms of character design, Oboro's hero costume, weapon of choice, yes he has a weapon of choice, and quirk are all references to the character Sun Wukong from the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West, which just so happens to be the exact same character Son Goku from the Dragon Ball franchise is based off of as well. So I guess you could say Oboro is the Goku of the My Hero world. For his hero costume, Oboro wears a dark blue martial arts gi accompanied with a brown aviator jacket and hat, some protective goggles, black boots, and fingerless gloves. His weapon of choice is a quarterstaff, which he uses in conjunction with his quirk Cloud to attack enemies with great effect. This quirk, Cloud, grants Oboro the ability to generate clouds, real shocker there, which he can move around, put stuff into, and manipulate the density of at will. Oboro's primary use of this quirk is to quickly make clouds which he can hop onto and then swiftly ride around on, allowing him to fly and move around at some pretty high speeds. Son Goku, eat your heart out. Oboro's hero name is Loud Cloud, which came about due to his quirk Cloud and him being relatively loud. He's loud and cloud. So, what exactly happened to this proud loud cloud boy? Well, he actually had a relatively normal life. He grew up, acquired a pretty unique quirk, managed to make his way into UA, quickly made friends with Aizawa and Present Mike, and they got by just like any other class. Nothing really special happened. That is until their second year, when Class A had to take part in mandatory hero work studies. You see, while being super jovial and excelling at any physically demanding tasks such as battle training, rescue training, and even entertainment lessons, Oboro wasn't really the sharpest tool in the shed, getting relatively low grades in all of his academic tests. This unfortunately led to Oboro being one of the last members of his class left without any place to go for hero work studies. The only other student who didn't have a position just so happened to be Shota Aizawa, who had average grades but wasn't really great at selling himself and at the time definitely suffered from some serious confidence issues. They were kind of the perfect yin and yang duo, where one failed, the other succeeded. And this is actually something that brought the two students closer together as friends. You see, during his second year at UA, Aizawa began to doubt himself as a hero, constantly finding himself in situations where he believed he wasn't good enough to really help, or was just unable to help due to the simplicity of his quirk. These situations began to take an effect on Aizawa's mentality, leading him to question what what type of hero he wanted or even could be. Now these situations weren't all life or death. One such scenario occurred one rainy morning when Aizawa was making his way to UA, when he came across an abandoned kitten. Shota wanted to help the kitten, but he knew animals weren't allowed in UA, and even if he did take it with him, he would have no way to take care of it and had no way of giving it a home. Disappointed in the fact that he couldn't even save one measly defenseless kitten, Aizawa did what he could and left his umbrella with the creature, keeping it dry from the rain. Yet, he still lamented the fact that he wasn't able to properly save it. However, later that morning, during the class roll call, Oboro would arrive into class late, soaking wet, carrying both Aizawa's umbrella and said kitten. Oboro was obviously scolded for the matter, but he didn't seem to really care and was just happy that he could make sure the kitten was safe. Now at the time, Aizawa didn't say much about Oboro's rule breaking, but later on, during the Kurogiri confrontation, he did mention that he really admired Oboro for doing this, and how it was one of the many examples of not only Oboro's true heroic nature, but in how he helped to show Aizawa what the best heroes are really like. And this is also very much how the Aizawa-Oboro friendship dynamic worked. Whenever Aizawa doubted himself or his abilities, Oboro would either lift him up with a positive outlook on the situation, or he would pull Aizawa along and help him get past any problem he was facing. When Aizawa began to question his quirk's use in combat, Oboro pointed out how quirk matchups can make or break a fight, and Aizawa has the only ability that allows him to even the playing field no matter his opponent. When Aizawa questioned his position in his Oboro and Hizashi's hypothetical hero agency, Oboro reassured him that his quirk is perfectly suited for teamwork. But I should also point out that this wasn't a one-way relationship. Whenever Oboro had his head in the clouds, pun intended, Aizawa would quickly reel him back down to earth to make sure he stayed on the right track. Such as when Oboro said he would look after the kitten he saved, but Aizawa had to make sure that he was feeding him the right food and taking care of it in the proper manner. Basically, Oboro was the not so academically smart, optimistic himbo of the relationship, and Aizawa was the overly serious, often pessimistic realist cat mom. So as you can imagine, these two were the perfect dynamic duo, which was made ever so clear when they joined the same hero agency for their mandatory work studies. A few days after the kitten rescuing incident, President Mike, Aizawa and Oboro ended up crossing paths with UA third year named Mori Keyama, aka Midnight, on UA's rooftop. After a short conversation, Midnight, even at that age, became fascinated with the trio's youthful and boisterous demeanor, and she became immediate friends with the group, and even ended up adopting the abandoned kitten Oboro had saved, naming it Sushi after Oboro's favorite food. However, this wouldn't be the only favor Nomori would do for the boys, as once she learned of Aizawa and Oboro's misfortunes in finding a hero agency, she offered the duo a chance to work with her and the hero she was partaking work studies with, His Purple Highness, who is without a doubt a reference to the performer formerly known as Prince. The two boys obviously accepted this offer, and so Aizawa, Oboro and Midnight all took part in their shared hero work studies. During this time period, Oboro and Aizawa grew a lot closer, working together to defeat villains and using their quirks in perfect unison to overcome any and all obstacles. The two also used their shared work studies as an excuse to be on the same team during battle training in UA, stating that getting to practice together in school would help them work better out of school. It was also during this time that Aizawa came across a villain who he struggled to fight with, as the villain would release smoke, blinding Aizawa, rendering his quirk useless. To counteract this problem, Oboro gave Aizawa a lens of his goggles, which not only proved to be amazingly beneficial, but helped Aizawa to keep his quirk activated on the villain during a later encounter in which Oboro and Aizawa both took down the villain with ease. And in case you're wondering, that's right, Oboro was the person who gave Aizawa the idea to use his iconic yellow goggles. Knowing this also really makes this scene here where he takes them off and pushes them towards Kurogiri a lot more impactful now, doesn't it? Oboro certainly had a big impact on Aizawa, not only as a hero, but also as a person. But unfortunately, the biggest impact Oboro would have on Aizawa would also be his most tragic. One day, a few months into their work studies with the Purple Revolution Agency, Oboro and Aizawa were both doing some pretty menial hero work, making sure some preschoolers and their teacher were able to safely cross a road. Together, the two completed the job with ease, and they both earned the gratitude of not only the teacher but also of each of the students. In seeing how well Aizawa worked with the little kids, Oboro suggested that he should consider working at a daycare or in becoming a school teacher. But Aizawa shrugged off these suggestions, claiming that he wasn't good enough to be either of those occupations. However, Oboro refused to believe this, stating that Aizawa overthinks too much, and if he could just stop psyching himself out and put his mind into it, he could accomplish anything. However, while this conversation was taking place, unbeknownst to the duo, an insanely powerful and gigantic villain going by the name Garvey had entered the nearby area and begun to cause havoc. Midnight warned the two over the radio that Garvey was headed straight towards their location, and so the two student heroes rushed back to the preschoolers and the teacher to help them evacuate the area. While all this was going on, Present Mike arrived onto the scene with his hero work studies agency, the Buster Union, which was composed entirely of heroes who wielded destructive hard-hitting quirks, and together they used their powerful abilities to launch a full frontal assault on Garvey. In a shocking twist of fate, however, it turned out that this was the worst possible thing they could do, as Garvey's quirk Stock allows him to devour any sort of attack, absorb it, and re-release it from his own body at will. So Garvey just absorbed the combined force of what at the time was considered to be the most powerful hero agency's ultimate moves. This disastrously led to Garvey unleashing the quirks outwards towards the city, causing massive destruction. With the city and its buildings in ruins, rubble began to come crashing down from the sky, and some of it was headed directly towards Oboro, Aizawa, and the preschoolers they were protecting. And in a moment of pure instinct, Oboro activated his cloud quirk over the heads of the preschoolers, protecting them from the falling debris. But in doing so, he left himself defenseless. And in an absolutely devastating and unfortunate event, one piece of debris did make direct contact with Oboro, immediately knocking him to the ground, causing him to get buried under a torrent of rubble. With all the pros having been blasted back or defeated by Garvey's large blasts, and Oboro underground with his condition unknown, the only person who stood between this seemingly unstoppable beast and the defenseless children was Aizawa. Panicking at his dire situation and with seemingly no way to stop this villain, Shota became frozen in fear. However, just as all hope truly seemed lost, Aizawa heard Oboro cheering him on through his gourd-shaped speaker, which landed on the ground beside him. Hearing his friend's voice gave Aizawa the boost and confidence he needed to stand up and fight the villain. And after going through an arduous battle with Garvey, with Oboro's voice continuously echoing from the speaker, giving Aizawa words of encouragement, eventually Aizawa managed to single-handedly defeat the villain. With the villain down and the day saved, medics arrived on the scene and Aizawa began to receive praise from those in the area. But he refused to take all of the glory, stating it was all a team effort with his partner Oboro, who was cheering him on the entire time. However, after asking Midnight for an update on Oboro's condition and not only receiving no reply but seeing the grief-stricken faces of both Midnight and Present Mike, Aizawa realizes that something is up. And it's here where it's revealed that the gourd Oboro was talking to Aizawa through the entire time he was fighting Garvey was broken, and it had been broken the entire time. Aizawa initially denied this fact, stating that it was impossible because he heard his friend's words of encouragement throughout the entire fight. But they explain that in reality, this must have just been Aizawa finally hyping himself up and accepting the fact that yes, he can be a hero. And in the heat of the moment, he imagined the words were coming from the one person who had always reassured him of this fact. Aizawa, still in denial, brushed off this comment as nonsense. But when he looked towards the fallen rubble where Oboro was knocked out, the only thing he saw was his friend in a body bag stained with blood. And it's here where he finally realized the terrible truth. Oboro Shirakumo was dead. the falling debris that had hit Oboro when he was protecting the kids had killed him upon impact. And as Aizawa's mind began to flood with memories of his smiling and cheerful friend, Oboro's body was picked up by the paramedics and carried away, leaving both Aizawa and Present Mike in the rain, mourning the loss of their dear old friend. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has been the life, death, and tragedy of Oboro Shirakumo, the hero whose smile could bring joy to even the gloomiest person. Now, what exactly happens to Oboro's body after this event is still very unclear. All we know is that All For One manages to obtain it and use it as the base for the Nomu known as Kurogiri. Whether he resurrected Oboro or somehow managed to put life back into this deceased body is still a mystery. But what we do know is that at least a sliver of the young, hopeful, starry-eyed hero remains within, and all we can hope for is that someday he can return in some shape or form and see just how great a hero Aizawa and all the others have become. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and comment your thoughts and opinions about Oboro Shirakumo below. Was his story what you expected? And what would you like to see happen with Oboro next? If you would like to see more content like this, don't forget to Detroit smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Plus Ultra!